Okay, let's take a look at this passage together. Let's go through the answer choices. They're saying that passage 2 focuses primarily on irrelevance for students entering today's job market. Well, I remember seeing fails to prepare people for the real world today. Children are rewarded, will not go to work in factories. These skills are useless and counterintuitive, will not work in factories, and they are not preparing children for the world in which we live. So I'm going to hold on to this answer. I see it in passage 2 in essentially 3 spots, and it's a very short passage. Historical origins, I can't find the support for this. Let's get rid of this whole answer choice. Devotion to fair and equitable education. So devotion is an extreme word, and we have to be careful of extreme language on the SAT because it's not usually supported. And if it's not supported, it can't be right. So devotion is a little much, and the rest of the answer in general is not good, but I can get rid of it just off of devotion alone. Questionable ethics regarding discipline. So I don't recall any of these things being even remotely discussed, so I'm just going to flat out get rid of D. And E, potential for improvement if specific changes are made. This is too far out of the scope. This has just gone too far. It's like maybe this is a few steps of logic away from the passage, but like we said earlier, you can at most take 1 step of logic away from what the passage is saying, and it's usually between like a half a step to a step. Not 3 steps away. The author would agree with this because if you thought this and this and this and this as well then that would make sense. We can't do that. So A, we see supported. We can point to it. It's not exciting. It's not a big leap of logic away. It's just a summary of what passage 2 was saying, which is what main idea and primary purpose questions are. So we've seen 3 examples here where if we turn ourselves into SAT robots, we can really nail these questions. We learned what language there was to ID the question. We knew what to look for once we did that. We knew how to look for it, and we knew how to prove that our answer was right, and we're also learning how to identify answers that are wrong. So if we're really doing each of these things, then we can improve our ability to answer these questions and do them a lot more quickly as well. Let's go ahead and answer that, see how we did there. Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more question. As you can see, like we said, passages can range from 100 words to 850. Here is a much longer passage, but everyone tell me in the chat box, how do I know this is a main idea question? How do I know that this is a main idea question? This one's got both of the words. It's got main and purpose from those primary purpose ones, so this is how we know that we're dealing with a main idea question. We need to read the whole passage, and this is the lengthy one, so I'm going to give folks about 3 minutes total to read it. I'm going to give you a little while to read this top portion, and then I'll scroll down and you can read the rest of it. But for now, go ahead and read to line 35. You have a minute and a half. Okay, let's take a look at this one together. If we've read it, they're talking about counterfeiting everywhere, so that part seems like it's part of the main purpose of the passage. It seems to be pretty anti-counterfeiting. So you notice how I'm just paying attention to the general content of the passage, counterfeiting. The general angle of it, anti-counterfeiting. So we don't need to understand or memorize the details or the intricacies. We just need to know the general. It's about counterfeiting and it happens to be against it. Could have been for it, who knows, but it wasn't. So, describing the horrors of sweatshops and how to help close them down. Well, they talk about sweatshops. Describe is too far. They don't go into too much detail, and they certainly don't talk about how to help close them down. So here's some mold. I see some mold. I get rid of the whole block of cheese later. So, B, analyze the international crime syndicates that are often the driving forces behind counterfeiting. So the word analyze is a very specific word. The word analyze means to take something and to break it into its parts and understand how each of the parts works. That's not going on here. They talk about something, they slightly analyze the issue of counterfeiting, but they don't analyze the international crime syndicates. Just because it's mentioned once, A, that doesn't qualify as analysis of just mentioning something, and B, it's not the primary purpose of the whole passage. It's too specific, and the word analyze is not appropriate either. C, show how one major electronics company has been harmed by counterfeiting. It's in there. Think ragu. It's in there, but that's not the whole thing. This is too specific again. Too specific. So we as a GMAT robot, we know to look for, sorry, not GMAT, as an SAT robot, we know to look for these things. I also teach the GMAT. If you guys want to simultaneously prep for your MBA admissions exam, feel free to join me. That course is almost over though. You can come back in a few years, I'm maybe still teaching it. This answer choice, too specific. It's in there, but we can't qualify it as the main idea of the whole passage. Argue that consumers aren't responsible if they purchase a good inadvertently. So on this one, they again talk about consumers, but do they argue that they're not responsible? Argue that consumers aren't responsible? In fact, he sort of argues that they are responsible. So this is the opposite. This is actually an attractive answer choice on these tests, is the opposite answer, strangely enough, because it talks about the same things, but just flips the logic, and if you're answering just based off your memory, you're not likely to be able to do it. And then E, describes some of the less often considered dangers of counterfeit goods. So he describes one of the dangers here in that it can harm people's branding. He talks about more of the dangers here because of child labor. It says described is good. Described is just talking about some things. He says some. It doesn't use an extreme word like all or every. Describes some of the less often considered dangers of counterfeit goods. And part of what this passage is doing is trying to just in general talk about the things that people aren't aware of, how it can harm in more subtle ways. So that's sort of like less often considered. So again, I can really point to specific language even on these main idea questions that help me support an answer choice. And more specifically, I got rid of these ones for very specific reasons. I'm pretty sure it's E. Let's pick it and find out. Nice work. So those are main idea questions. We're going to do some for our homework. Let's talk about that here. If you're a Grockit Standard member, it's only $99 to get access to thousands of questions, adaptive algorithms, a community of students, expert explanations, and if you're using Grockit to do your homework, your assignment is to read 4 reading comprehension passages. Answer all of the questions, but read each one for the main idea. Review detailed questions and explanations and performance reports. You can do that if you're a Grockit member. And slides, homework, and the class calendar can all be found at this URL, courses.grockit.com FarB.com/SAT. I'll give you a few seconds to write that down so that you can go and actually get this exact same slide that has that written down for you. In a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Dave Montesano, that's from College Match, that's going to help us hack the college admissions process. He'll be with us for about a half hour today, and he'll be joining us on a bunch of other classes as well. You can see that schedule at courses.grockit.com/SAT. If you enjoyed this course, I'd love for you to hit the little tweet button or the little Facebook button on this page. It's a completely free course. All 16 sessions will be completely free and live streamed online. So the way that we really want to do this is get as many people in as possible. So if you like this course, please hit the tweet button on the page and send out some tweets to invite people. This class will be available totally free to stream and download, and then all of the other classes going forward will be free live, but you can also purchase the downloads or restreams off them as well. We're going to go off air for about 1-2 minutes maximum, and Dave Montesano is going to magically appear before your eyes, and I will be gone. Thank you so much for joining us here today for our first SAT class. I think we had over 150 people watching from all over the world, so that's awesome. Invite your friends, bring more people, it's all free. Have a great day, do your homework, take a couple of the SAT diagnostics under solo practice if you're a Grockit member too, to get a baseline of how you're doing. We'll see you on Thursday to continue our SAT class. Thanks a lot. Everyone have a great day. Don't go anywhere. Be here for just 1 minute. Dave Montesano will be here and help you hack the college admissions process in about 60 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Just hit the refresh on your page. Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you again soon.